There was a big case this week where a guy who considers himself an anti-tax activist and also was charged with scamming the IRS out of $36 million was in court. He got 8 years in prison for this, and our legal analyst, Chaz Farcher from Martin Harding Mazzotti, joins us. Hey, Chaz, how are you?
Good morning, Chuck. I'm fighting a cold.
A little under the weather. You're tough as nails, though. That's what we call you here, Nails. That's your nickname.
Much appreciated.
Hey, so let's just really talk about this Unger case. And let me ask you, first of all, in a general term, we all know about the sovereign citizens who say they really the government doesn't have any right to tax them. Can you tell them what is their legal point and why do the courts continually rule against them?
Yeah, essentially what they stand for is that, if they're not participating in a lot of the government benefits, why should they have to pay taxes? They don't believe there's any law that actually directs them to pay taxes, and it's just an erroneous legal argument. The ability for Congress to levy taxes actually comes directly from our Constitution. There are two articles. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the ability to levy taxes, and then the income tax was instituted in 1913. So both of them are written into the Constitution, so unless the Constitution is rewritten, the courts have a hard time grappling with their arguments.
So people say it's my constitutional right not to pay taxes are completely wrong.
Dead wrong. and about 80 years of court precedent shows that, and now an 8-year prison sentence, $200,000 fine for Mr. Unger hopefully will drive that point home.
It's incredible that he was able to scam the government out of $36 million. I don't know how you make that much money. And by the way, now I'm going to get an avalanche. I'm going to get an avalanche of emails today from people who are going to explain why it is unconstitutional. So I guess that comes to the territory. Another interesting ruling on Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah, so they're being told now that they have to consider hiring felons. They can't eliminate that as part of the hiring process.
Yeah, and that's always been the law. You can't. There's no way you can blanketly say we're not going to consider any ex-convicts or any ex-felons. That's also the law in New York State. We have the corrections law, which says you have to consider every application for an ex-con individually. You can't just make a blanket decision not to hire any ex-cons.
So why does it even say on the application, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Well, because it can certainly be a factor that an employer considers, but when the employer does that, what you've got to look at is what's the nature of the offense, how it relates to the job they're applying for, how much time has elapsed. So if somebody's been convicted of, say, possession of 3 pounds of marijuana, you can't necessarily not hire them for a job that requires honesty 20 years later.
So Bed Bath & Beyond, I guess they've settled with the state. This is the New York State Attorney General and basically over this. But if somebody were to bring this to court and say, look, you can't force me to even consider a felon, do you think they'd have a leg to stand on legally?
No, I don't. No, not under the current law. Under the current law, even in New York, to mention the federal law, what the concern is that, one, without employment, there's the increased risk for recidivism. So legally, we decided that felons and, convicts need to be considered for jobs. Maybe not necessarily accepted. They have the right to be considered. If you're not going to take them for that job, you've got to consider those factors I just went over. And actually, if somebody applies for a job has a felony or a conviction on their record, they can actually ask for a written statement as to why you didn't hire them, so they can make sure you consider those factors.
Yeah, so there's nothing that says you have to hire them, and so you can kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, go, yep, we considered you, and then move on.
You got it.
Okay.
Chaz, thanks so much. We appreciate it. I hope the cold gets better.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Chaz Farcher from Martin Harding and Mazzotti, 1-800-LAW-1010. Chuck and Kelly.